Firstly, before I start this video, I want to say sorry for how long it's taken me to upload. My boyfriend's family recently came over and we had a great time, but I was completely distracted while they were here, so I couldn't work on any videos. Secondly, I want to say that I haven't watched Miraculous Ladybug in a long time, so if anything I say is incorrect or doesn't sound quite right, then please spare me, and feel free to write your opinions down in the comments. And lastly, this video is going to be formatted a lot differently than how my videos usually are formatted. I once again got the inkling to work a little bit harder on most of my stuff, and I've been taking inspiration from other YouTubers within my absence. So I hope you guys enjoy, and again, please let me know how you feel about what you see today in the comment section. Thank you. Hey there, what's going on everybody? It's Star, Miraculous Ladybug, a show about magical superheroes, crazy traumatic experiences for a child to be facing, and of course, a crazy love square. Yes, everybody knows about Miraculous Ladybug. Well, at least I think you do. It's been super popular for the past several years and it's still going on to this day, as a matter of fact, and there is a huge discourse around several different topics around this show, including character arcs, designs, and shipping, of course. Now, I have had a Miraculous Ladybug phase, as do most folks, and I was one of those people that was watching it for a little while and then slowly fell off of it and didn't touch it, and then would come back to it during a crazy plot line, and then would leave again and then just go back and forth through it like that. And I am currently in the stage where I haven't seen anything on Miraculous in a very long time. I have no clue what's going on with the show right now. And it's actually been a super long time since I have indulged in any media regarding that show. However, it has crossed my mind again. I have been seeing people redesigning it on YouTube lately, and I actually did have the plan to redesign these guys, but I never got around to doing it because the idea of redesigning these folks, it has always been very jarring because there is so much discourse behind these characters. But I finally decided to bite the bullet, and today I am going to be redesigning Miraculous Ladybug characters, and if this video does well, and if people actually like it, and if I actually have a good time drawing these folks, then I may do it again. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and we're going to be starting with Marinate and Adrien and their superhero forms, of course. And this video will most likely be divided into a couple of parts. I'll start off by explaining my brainstorming process, and I'll show the imagery that I pulled together in order to figure out how I wanted to design these guys. And then I'll actually get into the designing part where I will discuss some of my choices, as well as go into a small rewrite about how I kind of headcanon these new versions of the characters. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, I made two different mood boards for both characters. I made one for their civilian form and one for their superhero form. And my goal with these designs was to make them look a whole lot more interesting and showcase their personalities a little bit more in their outfits. Because one of my biggest pet peeves with Marinate and Adrien, but more so Marinate, is that her outfits don't really showcase the fact that she's a fashion designer. I don't think that would be pretty easy to see when you first look at her unless it's explicitly stated, and that kind of bothered me a lot when it came to her design. So I wanted to showcase more of her unique personality traits through her dress. And the first thing that I wanted to insinuate within both of these characters is that they have a lot of varying outfits instead of just one very simple kind of boring outfit that they wear throughout the entire series. And I know that animators usually stick with one outfit whenever they're doing a character, especially in some sort of action show when they have to do more difficult poses and stuff like that. They make an outfit that's super simple to keep continuously drawing so that they can pump out episodes as fast as possible, and I totally understand that. But it still bothers me that her design isn't at least a little bit more interesting since she's a fashion designer. So again, that was my goal with this. And with this mood board, I was trying to bring together some imagery that gave fairy core and vintage style I don't know why I wanted to do a vintage style for Marinate, but that's just kind of what I get from her and kind of what I imagine her wearing a lot of the time, as well as a little bit of a mixture of academia core whenever she has to wear a uniform for school or whatever. So that's what I was really thinking with this, and of course having a lot of pink in her dress, but also some varying colors. I did want to keep that grayish black that she has on with the little coat that she usually wears, but I wanted to use it in a different way, and I wanted to improve how her pigtails look, because I feel like that they looked a little bit flat, so I wanted to add a little bit more volume to her hair whenever I decided to draw her hair. So that's what I really was thinking about for her dress. I also wanted to sort of showcase that she is always kind of slightly frazzled, because I do like the idea of her personality being more of the clumsy one, but otherwise she's very organized. For example, when it comes to her homework and her actual design notes and stuff like that. And of course she is very shy and very sensitive, but is able to be very open and very honest with her emotions with people that she actually trusts, minus the secret that she keeps from everybody that she's Ladybug, of course. So that's what I had for Marinate's civilian design. Now on to the mood board for Ladybug's design. Now, what I had for the idea for their hero designs was that I was just going to take the opportunity to flip their personalities completely on its head. Since nobody knows who they are, they can pretty much be whoever they wanted, and that concept was explored a lot and is shown whenever they are in their hero forms. And what I wanted to do with Ladybug was basically showcase how she is a whole lot more of a confident person. She's a whole lot more loud, a whole lot more talkative, but she is closed off emotionally. So she doesn't talk about herself or her life, or even give hints about what her life is usually like whenever she is in her superhero form. And she just focuses on work and being a superhero and doesn't even mention her life outside of that. And she's not clumsy, she's super active, she's super jumpy and flippy and does a lot of kick moves and stuff like that. And that's what I was imagining for Ladybug's design. I wanted to also do something very important with their designs. Another thing that really bothered me about their hero designs was that they were super duper plain, and that they don't really differentiate the hero designs from the civilian designs. It's actually really easy to tell, you know, who it is under the mask. And I know that that might sound silly because, oh, of course, as a viewer, you're going to know who it is under the mask. I know that there's also a theory where there's magic around their hero designs and around the jewelry that they wear, so that even if it looks really simple to us and that you could clearly tell who it is, you can't really tell if you are somebody in the show, or if you're looking at them like that, because the magic kind of puts some sort of mask around them so you can't tell who it is. And that makes sense, but I still am really bothered by the fact that there isn't any major factors that differentiate Marinate's civilian form from her hero form. Pretty much everything about her is the same. So I wanted to make sure that I differentiated a lot of different aspects of Ladybug versus Marinate. And I knew that I wanted to make her pigtails longer, and I wanted to make them colored. I really like the idea of colored hair from the evil versions of Marinate and Adrien. So I wanted to have their hair get colored whenever they were turning into their hero forms. I also wanted to do a mixture of some of Marinate's personal style and some of ancient Chinese folklore style, like ancient Chinese warrior styles, to touch on some of Marinate's Chinese culture. So I did a small bit of research for that, and I wanted to incorporate that as well. And for both of these mood boards, for both of the characters, I also took some information from some other redesigns that other people have done in order to create my own. So that was my ideas for Marinate's civilian and hero designs. Now on to the brainstorming section for Adrien. So the first thing that I thought of when redesigning Adrien's civilian look was that he always has that sort of stereotypical rich boy look whenever he's walking around, and you know, he looks more like a person with wealth whenever he is in some of his casual wear. And I really like that idea, and I like some of the options that I got when I was doing some research on it. So I really wanted to lean into that for Adrien's civilian design, and kind of lean into that for his personality a little bit more as well. I wanted him to openly show his privilege even though he is more of a soft-spoken individual, he has no problem talking about, the crazy stuff that he's allowed to do, and all the stuff that he owns because he has a bunch of money. Because since he's been sheltered his whole life, he believes that everybody is like that, and that it's just completely normal, and he has no clue that some people are actually live completely different than him. So he speaks from a place of privilege, and it's not a bad place, but it's a place of privilege. He doesn't understand. So that's what I think of for Adrien's personality as well. So that's what I was trying to think of for him. And I also wanted to stick with that layered look. I really wanted him to really have just more long sleeves and have more layers and collars and stuff like that for his civilian design. For his hero design, I wanted to again go a completely different direction. Now he usually acts like a pretty little rich boy whenever he's a civilian, but here he acts like a complete hoodlum. I kind of think of Aladdin type of guy where he's super loud, super vulgar. His dress shows like a vigilante, and he just acts kind of goofy and silly and just like a completely different person, and he's super loud and everything like that, just completely opposite of who he is as Adrien aggressed. And he does still have a lot of layers. Again, I wanted to lean into his normal dress, the mixture of his own style, and then more of the vigilante style. I was mashing those two styles when it came to his hero design. So I was thinking of that, and he still does have a lot of layers going on, but he looks more aggressive. There's a lot of leather, there's a lot of black, there's not really any light colors going on besides the green, of course. So that's what I was thinking of for Cat Noir's design. It was very difficult to come up with some ideas for Adrien and Cat Noir. I struggled a lot with this one, but it was fun to think about, and I am ready to get into the actual design aspect. So now we're going to get into the actual designing part of this video, where I'm going to just touch on some of the rewriting options that I have thought of for Marinate, and basically what I went through while I was doing this design process. So I did 4 outfits for each of the characters, and I started with Marinate. I did 4 outfits for their civilian designs, but I only did 2 poses for their hero designs. Now, for Marinate's face, I struggled. I don't know what happened with her eyes, and I ended up sticking with it by the end. I didn't end up changing anything, but I, for some reason, struggled a lot with her face. I think I was coming back to drawing after not drawing for a little while when I finally got around to doing this. So I was basically learning how to draw again, and her face just ended up turning out really off, and it doesn't look like how my art usually looks. So I'm not very fond of her face at all, and it doesn't look right with the rest of the drawing, and I am really angry about it because I do like how the rest of the drawing turned out, and I do like how her Ladybug design turned out, but her face in her civilian form just looked very, very off. But when it comes to the designs, I kind of went with a similar version of her original fit for her school outfit, and like I said, I wanted to keep the coat thing going on, and I wanted to mash the colors and not only do pink, and I took the opportunity to do that with her school outfit. So I did a sort of academia style, and I added the coats and the skirt, and I wanted to keep bows within her design as well. I was struggling to figure out if I wanted to put her in a dress or pants, kind of similar to that one reference that I did and put it in the mood board, but I ended up sticking with the dress, and I took the opportunity to use a vintage sort of pattern on the dress so that I could tap into that vintage thing that I was talking about. And then I also did a bakery uniform and pajamas, and those designs are a whole lot simpler, just because there's anything too crazy going on, and she's not trying to show off or have anything constricting going on during those scenarios. So that's what I was really thinking of with those designs. Now on to the rewriting portion that I was thinking of, and there's not much to the rewriting portion. I wasn't trying to do any major rewriting or anything like this, but I basically just have a short little synopsis and headcanons that I have come up with for this version of Marinate. Now, if I get anything wrong about her original lore, please forgive me. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I have not watched Miraculous in a long time, so I don't remember exactly what the lore is, and I was too lazy to go into researching it. But this is what I have. So basically, Marinate is 16 years old, and she lives in Paris, France with her mom and dad, and she is French Chinese. Her mom grew up in China but moved to Paris, France to start her dream of becoming a professional bakery owner, and that's where she met Marinate's father, and they ended up getting married and having a child in France. Marinate was able to hone into her Chinese roots when her mom decided to take her to several different places on that side of the world so she can meet her family and to get in touch with those roots, but they moved back to France so that Marinate could continue to grow and learn under her to be a baker. When Marinate started attending her high school that we see her in the show, she had some extreme trouble with bullies and making friends, and ultimately was pulled out of school for a little while so that her mom could take care of her and that she could be homeschooled for a little bit and ease her way back into public school. Eventually, she did end up going back, and she had made some new close friends and was able to have a small circle of people who actually liked her and could protect her from her bullies. Because of this, she was slowly able to develop a more stronger sense of self and was able to protect herself and be able to attend public school without any troubles. Now we're at present day where we follow Marinate in the show, and this is the point where I was really concerned with switching some things around about how Marinate met Adrien and how she continued on to become a superhero. So we know that Marinate and Adrien were not seeing eye to eye at the beginning of the show. They were enemies for a little bit, and I really liked that part, and I wanted to have it be more of a slow burn and go on for a little bit longer. So that's what ends up happening. Marinate ends up being really sworn enemies with Adrien for a little while, because when Adrien first starts going to that school, he is coaxed to make fun of some of his fellow classmates and perform pranks on them by Chloe. But eventually, after hurting Marinate's feelings and embarrassing her in front of a bunch of people in class, he feels really bad and realizes that this isn't the proper way to make friends, and he struggles with making friends, so he wants to figure out how to make amends in the best way that he knows how. So after getting into a little bit of an argument with Chloe about it, he ends up distancing himself from her for now, so that he can apologize to Marinate and hopefully make it up to her so that they can become friends. Marinate cannot see eye to eye with him at first, and they still struggle to form a relationship. However, eventually Adrien proves himself to Marinate, and he proves to her that he isn't that bad of a guy, and they end up becoming friends and slowly being able to form a bond and then be able to merge friend groups, and that's how everybody is able to become friends and form a relationship with each other, including Nino and Alia. Now we're on to Ladybug, Marinate's superhero form. I really like how Ladybug turned out, and there's a lot of cool elements to this design, and I had a lot of fun doing it, especially the hair part. Like I said, I was mashing some of Marinate's personal style with some ancient Chinese folklore for Chinese warriors, and I don't know how well I achieved actually doing that. Please let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments. But overall, I just like how the design actually looks, and I like the different dots that I decided to put. I like the layeredness of this outfit, even though it's not too layered, and I just really like in general how this design turned out. I don't have much to say about it. It was pretty easy to come up with. So now we can continue on with Marinate's story. There's a point where Adrien asks Marinate if she has any major goals that she wants to complete, and Marinate says that she wants to make the world a better place with her presence in some way or another. She has always been somebody who has had a big heart and a kind soul, and sees the best in people immediately and tries to help people to go on the right path. She has always been a lover of people watching and animals, and she just wants everybody to be safe and live in harmony with each other. So she has been very concerned with that ever since she was a little girl. And she hopes that one day, through her baking and or her fashion, she can able to make a positive influence on people and be able to use her influence to convince people to be nice and to treat people with respect and the way that they would wish to be treated. After this moment, we see Master Fu, who is struggling to cross the street and almost gets hit by a car, whereas Marinate and Adrien go to help him and save him. This is how Master Fu decides that they should be the Miraculous holders, and he sends the Ladybug and the Black Cat Miraculous to these two kids through their window. And this is how we follow them through their superhero journey. At first, of course, Marinate is horrified of actually being a superhero and having that much responsibility put on her, because she already has enough things on her plate. And right at first, she completely ignores this whole thing and decides to try and continue on with her life. But then, shortly after that, the Akumas start. An Akuma affects someone in her class, and that whole situation ends up putting everybody in danger. Marinate tries to protect everybody in the best way that she knows how in her regular civilian form, but it is really difficult and nearly impossible, and a bunch of people are put in a very dangerous situation. She decides that the only way to protect people is to go on ahead and use the superhero Miraculous so that she can save everybody. So she transforms and decides to go about using her superhero powers and learning how to use them properly so that she can protect everybody and her friends. This is how she decides that she's going to go ahead and take on the responsibility of being a superhero so that she can protect all the people that she loves and holds dear. And that maybe this is how that she's going to be able to bring a positive influence into people's lives and make the world a better place, even if nobody is allowed to know that it's actually her under the mask. And that's all that I've got for Marinate's story. So next we've got Adrien, and I struggled a lot with this guy, let me tell you, especially with his hero design. I knew what I wanted to do, but it wasn't coming together exactly how I needed it to at first, but I did actually have a lot of fun doing him, and a little bit more fun doing him than I had doing Marinate, to be honest. So, like I said, he is going to have a very professional, very rich boy aesthetic about him. And I was making a very traditional outfit for his first uniform fit, and having everything being a little bit more layered, just like how I was saying. And I wanted to add a little bit more of an interesting color scheme and an interesting silhouette with his outfits. So I did a simple uniform for the first one, and with a colorful tie. And then the more casual fit is more like that little sweater wrapped around his shoulders type of thing with some more brighter colors. So we're leaning into those orange shoes that he likes to wear and those jeans. But I wanted to add a little bit of a different aspect with the sweater around his shoulder. And then he also has a uniform, basically a more professional suit-ish type of thing that he has going on whenever he goes into some sort of business meeting or something like that with his modeling. Of course, his outfit changes depending on what he's advertising for or whatever the assignment is. But the basic outfit that he usually goes to important events with is this little suit-ish thing that I did. And then, of course, the pajamas are super simple. I really had fun doing that outfit specifically as well for some reason. It was just a very simple, very nice casual thing that I liked doing. But I do like how Adrien's outfits turned out, and like I said, I had a lot more fun doing Adrien's one than I did for Marinate. So now on to Adrien's story. So Adrien, of course, as we know, has always been homeschooled. He never has been to public school ever in his life, and his mother and father were always the ones that taught him things and took care of him within their own home. However, at one point, the father and mother went on a trip and discovered the Peacock Miraculous in the woods. And when they figured out the magical powers that were possible with the Peacock Miraculous, they wanted to use it in order to better their lives and their little family. However, they bit off more than they could chew, and the mother ended up getting really, really sick and putting herself into a coma. The father was so distraught about this that he couldn't accept that anything bad had ever happened to her, and he had locked her in that little case and had hid all of the evidence of this ever happening from the son and from anybody else who might have been aware of the situation, so that he could decide to fix it on his own. And that is how he came around the Butterfly Miraculous. He initially wasn't going to use the Butterfly Miraculous because of its potential to be very dangerous, but he started using it so that he could use the people of Paris, France, in order to bring him the Ladybug and Cat Noir Miraculous so that he could make the wish to bring his wife back. He had no clue where the Ladybug or Cat Noir Miraculous was, so he just sent these butterflies out in order to use these people as minions to go find it for him, so that he wouldn't have to leave his home and risk being caught to find where the Miraculous was. Once he discovered that Ladybug and Cat Noir had returned and that they were stopping these Akumas from really becoming an issue, he focused in on them specifically so that he could use these minions and his Butterfly Miraculous to get the jewelry off of the holders themselves. So now back to Adrien. Of course, Adrien doesn't know about any of this, and he has started to go into public school. His father didn't want to risk him figuring out anything about what his plan was, so he said it would be a good idea for you to go into school so that you can start learning with other kids and learning some social skills. Of course, that was his ploy to distract his son from the real truth, is that he didn't want him figuring out the truth. So he made that up so that Adrien could go into school. Adrien was horrified of it. Of course, he didn't know how to make friends, and he didn't know how to be in a public setting, but he went along with it like his father said. Now, as we know, Chloe was Adrien's childhood friend, and they reunited with each other after not being in contact for a couple of years through this public school. Now we're on to Cat Noir's design. Now, like I said, Cat Noir was very difficult for me. Adrien and Cat Noir was just difficult actually coming up with the designs for these guys, and actually doing Cat Noir was very difficult. Doing his actual hero outfit was kind of a lot, but I knew, again, I wanted it to be very layered, and I wanted it to have a little bit of extra elements to it instead of it just being a straight up and down leotard for everybody. So I wanted to be that interesting thing. I wanted to keep the belt being a tail thing. I did consider actually giving him real, like kind of real semi-real ears and paws and a tail, but I didn't want to turn these guys into furries. I wanted to keep the idea of, you know, it's a costume that's themed like animals instead of them actually turning into animals. I did want their appearances to change somewhat when it came to the magic and everything like that, but I didn't want him to actually be an animal. I just wanted these to be costume parts. So I kept the belt being a tail thing. I thought that was really cool, and I thought the idea of the belt moving like a tail was also really cool. So I kind of wanted to keep that idea going for this, and I wanted to also lean into the leather vigilante type of thing as well. So I wanted to add the jacket and the like neck thing, the little scarf. I thought that the scarf thing was a perfect detail to showcase the vigilante thing a lot. I was feeling a lot of Robin Hood type of vibes with this guy, and again, Aladdin as well. So the scarf thing was a very big thing that I wanted to keep. I also wanted to add a lot of green accents to his design. I wanted to color his hair. I got, like I said, I wanted to color both of their heads, and I got a lot of inspiration from the evil versions of these guys. And I really like the idea of adding more green accents to this character, like the evil versions of them, and like Marinate's version of Cat Noir. When Marinate gets the Black Cat Miraculous, she has a little bit more green accents to her outfit, and I like that idea a lot. So I wanted to keep that and add more of those aspects to this original design for Cat Noir. So I added a lot of green accents to his shoulders and his elbows, and to his staff that he uses, and to his inside paws. Also, there's a little detail that I added that literally nobody can see unless you zoom really, really in, but I added these little dots to his claws. So his Miraculous's whole thing is destruction, and I like the idea of some over time deterioration on the tips of his claws because of how often he has to destroy stuff, and how that type of power eventually alters the body, as we've seen through some of the other Miraculouses, through the Peacock Miraculous and through some other people's use of the Black Cat Miraculous. Eventual use over time causes some deterioration, and I kind of like the idea of that starting to happen with his fingertips. So I added that little detail where there's a little bit of speckle on his fingertips, and again, you literally can't see it unless you zoom all the way in, but I'll put a zoomed in image of what I did in order to showcase that, and I hope it shows through at least a little bit when you're looking at the basic image, just that little gradient of darker green or darker black on his fingertips whenever you're looking, but that's what I wanted to add with this. So this was really fun. Now we can continue on with Adrien's story. So Chloe was the first one to teach Adrien how to act, quote unquote, in public school, which was the completely wrong way to act. Chloe convinced Adrien that the way to make friends was by bullying them and pulling pranks on them, and that everybody would love it and laugh about it, and that they would find him just as fabulous as her because he did that. But shortly he realized that that wasn't the case, and then he's actually pitting everybody against him because he keeps embarrassing everybody and pulling pranks on them, and now either people don't like him or they're just straight up afraid of him and don't want to get on his bad side because they think that he's just like Chloe. Shortly after this, he tries to distance himself from Chloe because he realized that her mindset is completely flawed, and unfortunately, when he separates himself from the only friend that he had at the time, it puts him in an even more bigger, lonely box. But eventually, he reconciles with the people that he's hurt, and he is able to make friends with these people, including Marinate. Now, we get to the point where he asks Marinate what her goals are in life. Now, he asks her this because he's trying to figure out how he should move forward in this situation. How should he move forward making friends? How should he move forward academically? How should he move forward even with his modeling career that he's going up down the path right now? How should he move forward with it? Because since he's been led astray for a long time by one of his close friends, he doesn't know what to think. Then Marinate opens his eyes to basically treating everybody with respect and being really nice and just trying to be the best person that you can be. So that is Adrien's story. So that'll do it for today's redesigns. I had a very interesting time doing these. They were semi-difficult for me to figure out how I wanted to approach this and how I wanted to approach Cat Noir, especially like how I was saying. But they ended up turning out pretty decently. I just don't like how Marinate's civilian design turned out. Again, the face doesn't look like how my style usually looks, and that bothers me a lot, and I don't know why that happened. But I think, like how I said, it was just because I was learning how to draw again, quote unquote, when I was doing this, because it had been a little bit since I had drawn when I started doing this. So it just sort of lost its way of me, but I didn't want to go back and dwell on it too much because that causes some issues, and I don't recommend dwelling too much on little details with your drawings either. So yeah, that was just a thing for me. So I just wanted to stop and not dwell on it too much so I can move on to other things. But all in all, I'm glad that I did this, and if this does well and if people want to see more of it, then I will do Alia and Nino next as well. Or if I feel like doing it myself, then I'll probably just go on ahead and do it. But again, that'll do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for something very special next video. I'm very excited for this to come out. Alright, see you guys later. Bye!